In my continuance on Diddy Gate, and before I get into this video here about Sean Diddy Combs and his situation, I just want to give a disclaimer. These videos that I'm making, this one included, it's not really a defense of Sean Diddy Combs, although to some people it may come off as that. It's just that I want to give a more fairer view of the charges against him, and just the situation in whole. Personally, I think Sean Diddy Combs is no saint, but none of us are. None of us is perfect in this world, and I don't think Sean Diddy Combs is perfect or a saint or anything. And I think he probably has been involved in a lot of low down shit and all that. But he deserves a fair trial and a fair observation as anybody else, or like a fair. Let's give him a fair assessment. So that's what I'm intending to do. The things I say in this video may be triggering to some, but I apologize. That's not my intention. It's just to give a more truthful picture of what's going on here, in my opinion. As most of us are already aware, Sean Diddy Combs, media mogul, was arrested and taken into custody on September the 16th, 2024 by federal agents in New York City. Per a grand jury indictment of him, the indictment was sealed when he first was arrested. Early on, it was sealed. So we didn't really know the charges that were against him that he was facing at the time of his arrest on the September the 16th, 2024. The following day after Diddy's arrest, Damian Williams, U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, gave us further insight into the charges against Mr. Combs by giving us the information in the sealed indictment. Basically, unsealed the indictment and gave us an insight into the charges against Mr. Sean Diddy Combs. Before I proceed with the charges against Diddy, let me just give a little back story on what a grand jury is for you all that don't know. A grand jury is a assemblement of individuals, legal residents of a specific district or a county or something like that, or they assemble them, certain amount of individuals, and they basically present the evidence to them, or the evidence or said evidence they have against a person with no opposition. Basically, the prosecutors get a chance to lay out all their evidence against someone to proceed on a possible prosecution. And like I said, with no opposition, no opposing evidence or nothing, just their evidence. So it's a one-sided kind of hit job. And the grand jury just decides if, by indictment, is it probable that it was a crime committed? So that's where the indictment comes from. Or they can reject the indictment and reject that there's a probable cause that a crime occurred. They can do either or. They have that power. That grand jury has that power. Now, like I said, with the grand jury, that's a one-sided, almost hit job in my opinion, because the prosecutor gets to do whatever they basically want to. They get to present what they want to with no opposition whatsoever. Now, on most state levels of the United States, a grand jury is a discretionary thing. Like the prosecutors can choose to assemble a grand jury, or they can choose to have a preliminary hearing in front of a judge to see if the case proceeds further. that's their choice. That's basically a discretion, a choice thing from on the state level. But on a federal level, which this case is against R. Kelly, it's not, when it's dealing with felonies, which all the charges or most of the charges against Sean Diddy Combs is about a felony. So it's almost required to have a grand jury hearing before prosecutor proceeds with that case. So just a little insight into what a grand jury is, and it's almost a necessity or required to proceed in a federal case that's dealing with felonies. I just wanted to give you that backlog of why it went to a grand jury. With that said, let's continue with Damian Williams, U.S. Attorney, laying out the charges against Mr. Combs here. He stated that the charges were dealing with issues or situations that happened between 2008 and the present day of 2024. The charges against Diddy were racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking. Those are the main ones there. Racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transporting. Also transporting individuals to another area or to this country or different places to perform to be involved in sexual deeds, so to speak. So these are the main charges that they're charging Diddy with. And I said, it spans from 2008 to the present day of 2024. Mr. Williams went on to say that all of these activities were headed and initiated by Sean Diddy Combs for his personal enjoyment and satisfaction. It also included things like intimidation and threats, physical threats, and things like that from Mr. Combs, as well as people that work for him, his employees, that, they intimidated people and forced people into these sex acts. And what the prosecutor, Mr. Williams, called freak-offs. That Diddy called his famous freak-offs that he used to have. He used to have freak-offs where he basically had a lot of drugs there, and that he gave the women and people who were at his freak-offs to be more compliant to what's the sexual activity going on. So he laid out that way about the freak-offs and all this, that Diddy and his henchmen, they used intimidation and all types of threats and all types of things, and drugs, a lot of drugs and stuff like that, and illusionary drugs that make make you kind of have illusions and stuff to participate and be compliant into these sex acts and these freak offs. So he laid it out like that. So yeah. One thing that really stuck out to me in Mr. Williams' press conference on the charges against Diddy was when he mentioned that if the women were not compliant with the freak off stuff, that they were subjected to being hit, kicked, and attacked by Diddy and pulled and dragged and this and that. He made that claim in his press conference that if they didn't participate or go along with it, they were subjected to physical abuse by Diddy, getting vases thrown at him. So he was making reference to the incident that happened between Diddy and ex-girlfriend Cassie, which I found interesting. For you all who don't know, Cassie Ventura was an up-and-coming singer at around 2005, late 2000s. up-and-coming singer, and she came across her and Diddy crossed paths in 2007, and they continued an on and off relationship for 11 years, from 2007 to 2018. They continued an on and off relationship. The mention by U.S. Prosecutor Damian Williams of if you're not compliant with Diddy's demands, you are subjected to get hit, kicked, stumped, or dragged dragged by your hair and so on and so forth, and vase thrown at you. That was a direct reference to Cassie and her situation with Diddy, that she had an incident with Diddy that most of us already know about in a hotel lobby in 2016. And so this prosecutor bringing it up in 2024 was, that was to, in my opinion, that was to trigger an emotional response from the public. But I guess that was the tactic that he used, and it's not a totally bad tactic, but but that's a tactic, in my opinion, that he was using to trigger an emotional response from the public as he's having his press conference. What truly makes this interesting to me, though, is that disgusting image that came from that hotel lobby of Diddy just physically assaulting Cassie in that hallway. And I don't condone that at all. I totally condemn that. That was totally a bitch move by Diddy, and that's unjustifiable behavior. That was terrible on his part. Made me just despise just despicable human being at that point. And it was just like, wow, that really, really, really inexcusable behavior from Diddy in that hallway in 2016. That really was terrible. No justification for that at all. Like I said, that's a totally bitch move. But that incident that happened in 2016, that sickening incident that it emotionally tugs at all of our heartstrings. That was just terrible beatdown. But that didn't come about because of any thing of Cassie trying to necessarily leave his sex freak-offs as this prosecutor Damian Williams tried to infer. It was something dealing with their relationship. Reportedly, it was dealing with their relationship that Cassie was fed up with Diddy having other women. Basically, this is reportedly that's what it derived from. Now, I'm not justifying it, but I'm saying, why would Damian Williams put this in, his press conference as it's a direct result of her resisting his demands of being part of a freak off where they feed him drugs and this and that, when that looked like that was a dispute and an emotional disagreement between a couple that was in a relationship. Some relationships are volatile and can be volatile, in situations like that. So I don't, like I said, I don't condone toxic relationships, but they might have had a little toxicity in their relationship. So, but I don't condone it at all. I condemn it totally. But so I just thought that's why it was interesting to me. Equally interesting to me about Mr. Williams' press conference on the charges is that in his press conference he never mentioned anything that was that there were any underage individuals involved in this prosecution. So we're to take from that all people that were involved, all parties were involved, were legally consenting adults or of legal consenting adult age. So that was interesting. That kind of kind of caught my attention in that. And it's also interesting that none of the charges that I know of in the criminal complaint here are dealing with rape against Sean Diddy Combs, and that's interesting to me as well. So we don't have a charge of rape against Mr. Combs, and there's no charge of minors or underage individuals in the complaint. And those two things stick out to me like a sore thumb. Those kind of stick out there, because those are interesting. They're very interesting. Now, Mr. Williams did say that there may be further charges added on later at a later date. So he did, to his credit, he did say that. He included that in the press conference, that there may be later charges included. So those might be coming up. Another thing, in Mr. Williams' press conference, he mentioned about the raids, the federal raids that were conducted on two of Diddy's properties, one in Los Angeles and one in Miami. And he was saying, well, those were conducted in March of 2024. And he mentioned how they found an AR-15 rifle and a fully loaded clip as well. And they found bottles, like 1,000 bottles of lubricant and baby oil around in the houses. During that search, those were recovered. And that's, why would he bring that up in the press conference? Because I'm looking at it like, I don't see no charge against owning illegal assault weapons. So he legally had possession of AR-15 rifles, assault weapons. So it looked like he was legally able to own those and had those in his house. Because there's no charge. If he legally owned them or legally had them, there would be a charge of illegally having possession of assault weapon. But there's not. So that's kind of disingenuous of him bringing that up, in my opinion. And to the baby oil and the lubricant, I mean, how do we know that, first of all, baby oil and lubricant is not only used for sexual activity, first of all. Those are not the only uses of those things, baby oil and lubricants. But even if they were the usage that he used them for, the main usage, I mean, could they be part of consenting sexual acts? We need to take that into account. Those could have been part of consensual sexual acts that Diddy and possibly his sons that used those houses as well could have used in their sexual escapades. So that's something to take into account. Consenting sexual acts that they had, they probably employed baby oil and lubricants. One thing I want to add right here, I know that prosecutors seem to have this holier-than-thou type of perception by many people as the ultimate truth tellers in any type of court proceeding. And that's just not true. Prosecutors and defense attorneys really come from the same cloth, and people don't, to me, they don't publicly acknowledge that enough to me. They both have allegiances to their alliance at the time of what they're doing, their side of the case or their position in a particular case. So I am one that don't see the prosecutors as any different than a defense attorney. They're protecting what their position or what they were paid, their paid position that they're on. And that's what that's what they're hired to do. The position that they're on, they fight hard for that side of the argument. So, with that said, and just a point of that, you would never see a prosecutor put forth evidence that somehow exonerates that defendant or that person. You would never see that. Just as you would never see a defense attorney that will put forth any evidence that points at his client. It just won't happen. And that's smart on their part. They're doing what they are paid to do. They are pushing a position based on their alliances. And that's so, in my opinion, that makes them from the same cloth. Prosecutors and defense attorneys are from the same cloth. So people need to dispel that belief that prosecutors somehow are ultimate truth tellers, because really they're not. People who view both of their arguments, the prosecution side and the defense side, that's why you get both sides, have to discern some truth in between both of both of their interpretations, or both of their stories, or what they're saying. You have to discern some truth in between both of their stories, because truth most times lies in between both of their stories, or what they're laying out to it to be. So just to add that in. I know that there's a lot of claims about Diddy on social media and tabloids and everything in the media, that he did this and he did this underhanded thing and this and that and all of the slanderous stuff about him. Some may be true, some may not be true, whatever. We probably don't know, probably won't know the details of what's true and what's not. We do know that Diddy is a very successful person who's, very wealthy person, and people seem to clamor and cling to people like that. I'm not saying that everybody was an opportunist that was in his circle, but I'm pretty sure there were many opportunists that's in his circle that was around him, and that's why it's a little bit. I'm just holding back judgment on this whole thing, because we know in our lives that there are people that when they see an opportunity to do something, we know that people are willingly and consent. They're willingly open to do certain things. They're willing to do disgusting sex acts and drugs and all this stuff. Most of the stuff he's been accused of, just so they can have their come up, at the possibility of having a come up. So, and I'm not saying that's the case for them. I'm not saying that's the case for the people that's in this case, but that's a possibility. That we can't not overlook that as being a possibility, that they were willingly participating in these freak-offs, these alleged freak-offs. So that possibility is clearly there. So we can't overlook that. I don't care. We cannot overlook that. It's just a thing. It's just, and another thing, I have a problem with people labeling certain people victims in this case. We have to prove truth, or it was the truth that they were victims, actual victims. It should be, the correct terminology should be alleged victims, because when you say a victim, you're already making the defendant guilty, and that is like that is treading on him having a fair trial. You're already labeling him guilty. The only victim we know of, verified victim we know of, just verified victim that we know of, that we absolutely know is true as a victim, is Cassie. When she got beat down on that 2016 hallway beat down there, that was a clear example of Cassie being victimized. So yes, in that case, in that situation, in the 2016, in that hotel lobby, Cassie was a victim of a physical assault by Sean Diddy Combs. There is no way around that one. But the other people to be colored as victims before there's any proof of them being victimized is a little bit preemptive. That's a preemptive, strike that is not fair to the defendant, Mr. Combs, in my opinion. As Diddy continues to sit in a New York federal prison until his trial or whatever, because he was denied bail at this point, even though Diddy's attorney is still fighting that, they're appealing that decision to so he can have bail, so he can be released in the released until the trial happens or whatever, have a release here. Which in my opinion, I feel that he should be released on bail, because if he really wanted to run or do something or do whatever, I mean, since this blew up in March of 2024, which was like 6 months ago, he could have ran, he could have did a lot of stuff in that time frame. I don't know. I don't believe that he's a flight risk. I just don't. I don't believe that he's a flight risk. I don't believe that. I don't believe he's a risk to post bail. I do not believe that. But hey, the court's gonna do what the court's gonna do. But I don't know how this case is gonna swing. I just don't want this to be an emotional get back by people that was disgusted as I was by the Cassie beatdown that he did in 2016. I want this prosecution, if it happens, to be based on facts. Like at this point, most of us don't know the actual facts, so I just want a fair trial for Sean Diddy Combs, and if he's found guilty, it is what it is. If he's found not guilty, it is what it is, in my opinion, and that's all I want. I just don't want it to be an emotional get back. I don't want it to be an emotional reactional thing just because we don't like him. Or we know that we just feel in our gut that he's did something, and sometimes we just don't like him. Like I said, I don't want it to come just from an emotional conviction. I want it to be a factual, based on facts, that he's convicted. That there's some provable facts that he did this, not suspicion or emotional, just something like that. I just want it to be based upon that. That's all I'm asking for. That's all I'm looking for in this whole trial. Like, I don't have a pony in this race either way. If he's convicted, so it is what it is. If he's found not guilty, it is what it is. That's the way I look at it. So, but I will be interested to follow this situation going on, and we'll see what happens. So I don't know what your opinion is, but please give me. I ask for your opinion on this whole matter here, and please feel free to comment on this video, share this video, or like this video, and yeah. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please subscribe. After subscribing, please hit that little notification bell in order to be notified of any new uploads from the channel. And with that, I thank you all for your support, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace! And I'm out.